Hello, welcome back to the channel, guys. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be starting the first episode in a tips and tricks series. I'm going to generally be focusing on new players, but experienced ones will definitely gain some knowledge on certain topics as well. Before we dive into it, please make sure to go ahead and follow the link in the description to my Twitch channel. I will be hosting some streams in the near future on Deadline, so if you're interested in that, definitely go head over there and drop a follow. And of course, if you do have any questions at all, or you have any specific topics in mind that you would like to see me cover, definitely drop a comment. Our first and most requested topic of the day is going to be how I set up my builds for my firearms in Deadline. I'm not going to be showing you specifically how I set up my guns, but however, there is a link in the description to a Google Doc titled Deadline Loadouts and Info. I post some of the NREL codes to import my specific builds that you see me use in videos to the game, so you guys do have the ability to use them. With that being said, these are some things that you should definitely keep in mind when setting up or building a new build in the weapon builder. The first thing I generally keep in mind is what kind of weapon is it? Is it a submachine gun, shotgun, pistol? Am I going to be using this as a DMR or a sniper? And that's generally what I initially think of when I start a new build. With that being said, that's generally going to describe my use case for the build. Do I want it to have higher ergo? Do I want it to be proficient in CQB? Do I want a light on my gun? Those kinds of things. Another example is if it's going to be a sniper, my recoil stats aren't going to matter. Delving a little deeper into it, one of the biggest questions I get is, should I prioritize ergo? Should I prioritize recoil? Which one should I go for? So for most of your builds, which are going to categorize as submachine guns, pistols, assault rifles, possibly DMRs, I would really focus on high ergonomics. The next thing you should definitely focus on is horizontal recoil. Having a lower horizontal recoil is going to make your recoil pattern way more predictable, and it's a lot easier to compensate for vertical recoil just going straight up and or down in cases of the vector versus horizontal recoil side to side. The next thing that I think that makes or breaks a build is definitely your choice of optic. Mainly what I focus on is going to be how easy I can track it during recoil. I generally recommend a lot of new players start off with the EOTech. The big circle dot is really easy to track. You can see how that thing's moving when you're firing. It's just great. The big window also makes it very easy to actually look through, which you would be surprised at how big of a factor that actually is when you're holding angles. If you're looking for something with a little bit more magnification, I definitely recommend going over the EOTech Voodoo. However, keep in mind that the big tube scope on that is going to make your target acquisition when it comes to speed not necessarily as clean. Next, we're going to be talking about utility, so that's going to be your flashlights, your lasers, those kind of things. I generally always build my guns with at least one laser and one light. Reason being, once custom keybinds are in the game, lights are going to be used a lot more often when it comes to toggling them off and on in CQB. Be prepared to be blind as shit. And I always generally build my guns with a PEC 15 on them. Why? They look very nice, and B, there's probably going to be a night vision rework in the future, and night vision is actually probably going to be a necessity. A big thing I see a lot of new players not put on their guns is the little rail covers for your extra Picatinny that you have not used. They do add ergonomics points as well as backup iron sights. They also look really nice as well. Probably one of the biggest questions I get as well is, should I run my guns suppressed or unsuppressed? I'm just going to say right now there is a lot of value in using a suppressor. Even though they do knock a little bit of points off your ergonomics values, they do improve your recoil. But the big important takeaway is they pretty much eliminate most of the flash that's coming from your weapon, which in a lot of instances in Deadline, when you're playing on those dusk or nighttime maps, it makes actually spotting your muzzle flash really difficult. Too long don't read, use a freaking can. The last thing I generally do is I build my guns for how they look. I want them to look visually appealing. I don't just necessarily go for the best in slot builds. Plus, I really don't think that those are going to be really a huge issue just due to how the devs balance the game. One of the topics that confuses a lot of the newer people to the game a lot is going to be your specific ammo types. you're generally going to be looking at 3 different ammo types in the game. Currently, you got your full metal jacket, your AP or armor piercing rounds, and then you have your HP/frangibles. Those are going to be your hollow points. And to kind of backtrack a little bit, there will be an armor system that is eventually implemented into the game, so I'll just explain how a lot of these rounds actually work with armor. Again, to reiterate, armor has not been added yet, but it is coming soon. First, we're going to start off with our hollow points. Those are going to have really high flesh damage but low armor penetration. Next, we have your full metal jacket. Those are going to have kind of a happy medium of both. And then we are also going to have our armor penetrating rounds. Those are going to obviously have high damage output as well as high armor penetration. So why don't you just use armor penetrating rounds? Well, they're going to definitely negatively affect your recoil. It's definitely a big thing. They're also going to add a little bit more weight. That's what I am generally going to expect to see out of the balances once armor comes out. Another thing to keep in mind is the initial projectile speed. Yes, some rounds are faster than others. They are hotter, if you will. And also there is a value for diminishing speed over time. That is a huge one. Definitely look for it. Understand what your rounds are doing. There also is a really easy to see graph on each ammo type that also explains damage output and the damage output over the distance. Again, this circles back to the use case of the weapon. Select a ammo type that makes sense. If you're running like a designated marksman rifle or a sniper, I would definitely recommend going for a hotter round, just so it meets its target faster. I think all of these decisions and these options to weigh when you're building a gun definitely all circle back to the kind of use case, the playstyle you're going to have with that specific weapon. To kind of recap, you're going to want to understand what the build is for, range, CQB, do you want it to be like kind of a happy medium of both? And another thing to think of too is, do you want this weapon to be really full automatic fire capable, or do you want to primarily use it in semi-automatic? I personally build all of my guns for semi-automatic primarily. You will, however, see me use full auto in a lot of close quarters situations, and that's if I know there's a lot of people there, then I generally swap over to auto. This will most likely change though once ammunition and the whole player customization ordeal comes out, where you can actually select how much ammunition you're bringing in, that kind of thing. You'll see that change the game. It's planned, just so you already know. I generally want to keep these videos short, so I think that's all we're going to go over today. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment. No matter what it is, I'm more than happy to kind of explain my philosophies when it comes to building your loadouts in Deadline, as well as applying my actual IRL experience with firearms. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you did, make sure to leave a like. If you learned something, make sure to leave a like. If you have any questions, again, please make sure to drop a comment. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. All my socials are listed below, as well as my Deadline loadouts and info Google Doc. On there, you'll be able to see all the builds that I have and actively use in Deadline, as well as my game settings, upcoming content, that kind of thing. Other than that, though, definitely enjoy the day for me and stay safe as well.